The beauty of a Semaran afternoon, it was just past noon when he stepped outside, the sun already high in the sky, casting golden beams over the streets of Semaran. The city shimmered under the heat. But instead of feeling drained, it felt alive. There was something about this particular afternoon, something soft, vibrant, and unforgettable. He had arrived in Semaran only the day before, he get to explore its unique blend of history, culture, and everyday life. Today, he wanted to experience it slowly, fully, without rushing from one place to another. And there was no better time to do that than a Semaran afternoon. The warm embrace of the sun and light in Semaran during the early afternoon is warm and comforting, not harsh like in many other cities. It poured down gently, illuminating the terracotta roofs of old colonial houses and bouncing off the pale yellow walls of buildings in Cotalama. Shadows stretched lazily across the sidewalks, and the bay corner of the city felt drenched in gold. The streets were alive but not chaotic. Motorbikes zipped past, weaving between cars and uncut. Street vendors stood by their carts, fanning grilled satay or pouring cold drinks into plastic cups, their faces glistening with sweat yet smiling nonetheless. Children in uniforms walked home from school, their backpacks slung chawali over their shoulders, giggling and chasing each other along the sidewalk. Wandering through Cotalama, I made my way to Cotalama. Semaran is the old town district, where time seemed to slow down. The old Dutch buildings stood proudly, many of them, weathered and faded, but still beautiful in their own way. Their large windows and high doors spoke of an era long past, but their spirit lived on, walking under the arcades. I found relief from the sun in the cool shade. A soft breeze occasionally swept through the narrow streets, carrying the scent of old paper from antique bookshops, coffee from nearby cafes, and a hint of cloves from a passing Kretek cigarette. Stopped Biblen Duke Church, the iconic dome structure with its white walls and red brick roof. It stood in silent elegance, watching over the city, just as it had for more than a century. A group of local tourists was taking pictures, laughing, and marveling at the architecture. The air was filled with the soft murmur of conversation, the flapping of pigeons, and the distant hum of the afternoon. A break at a hidden cafe soon, the heat made music shelter. And this slipped into a small cafe tucked between two old buildings. The air conditioning hit me like a gentle weight, and this I didn't relieve. The interior was a mix of rustic wood, vintage furniture, and local artwork on the walls. A young barista greeted me cheerfully and recommended their house blend. I ordered a nice coffee susu and a plate of taupetis, crispy tofu served with dark, rich shrimp paste sauce. As I sat by the window, I watched the well-outside go by. Elderly men pedaled their bicycles, young couples held hands while walking. Past antique stores and the occasional foreign tourists paused to take photos of the calefachates and colonial street lamps. The coffee was smooth and strong, sweetened just enough, and the taupetis added a kick of local flavor to the lazy afternoon. I sipped slowly, allowing time to pass without agenda. Without rush, colors of the afternoon as the clock edged toward las 3 p.m., the colors of the city seemed to change. The golden light grew warmer, casting in betons and buildings and tree trunks. The sky, which had been a brilliant blue, now softened to a pale hue streaked with faint white clouds, drifting slowly toward the west. The streets became busy again. Vendors began setting up for the evening market, opening umbrellas, arranging their displays of fruit, snacks, and clothes. The scent of fried bananas and gorengan filled the air. Semaran in the afternoon was not sleepy, it was quietly alive. Slowly awakening again after the stillness of midday. A short visit to Simpanlime, I decided to take a beca ride to Simpanlime. Semaran is a famous central square. The driver, a cheerful man named Pax Lamet, told me stories of how the area used to be 20 years ago, how more trees lined the streets, how students gathered there at night, how the city had changed. At Simpanlime, the afternoon crowd was growing. Families walked along the sidewalks, browsing the stalls that were just starting to open. Balloons bobbed in the hands of children, and teenagers took selfies in front of the glowing billboards. Even in the heat, there was something gentle about it. It wasn't the kind of heat that burns, but the one that softens your pace, that makes you slow down and look out. Reflections on the day as I made my way back toward my hotel, walking slowly under the softening sun, I thought about how many people only rush through cities. They visit landmarks, snap photos, and move on. But Semaran, especially in the afternoon, asks you to pause. It invites you to notice the way the light hits the old walls, to hear the rhythm of daily life, to smell the spices in the air. There is beauty here, not the loud, flashy kind, but a quiet beauty that seeps into your senses. A Semaran afternoon is not about doing things. It is about feeling them. Conclusion, the heart of Semaran in the afternoon in the stillness. Between lunch and sunset, Semaran breathes a different kind of magic. se mix of care attached, daily routine, food. And warmth creates a slow symphony that can only be felt by those who take the time to listen. It is in the glint of light and out glass windows. It is in the crackle of fried snacks in a pan. It is in the easy left of locals and events. It is in the way the afternoon hacks the city like a familiar friend. And in that golden hour, between the brightness of day and the cool promise of evening, Semaran whispers, still a little longer. Kalau kamu ingin bersini di wat lebih puitis, atau dengan unsur fiksi, atau di wat seperti jurnal perjalanan. Saya bisa bentuk juga. Ingin lanjut dalam bentuk kapatan ya chat GPT anda bilang, lebih banyak chat GPT bilang, tentu. Berikut lanjutan cerita. Panhan tentang keindan suasanas yen hari di Semaran, masih dalam bahasa Inggris dan ditulis lebih mendalam, dengan suasana budaya. Dan sudut kota yang berbeda agar ceritanya semakin kaya dan lengkap. Se afternoon charm of Semaran Part 2, adipe Jenny through its streets, people, and hidden peace after spending some quiet time at Simpanlime. I wandered into one of Semaran's more residential areas, a calm neighborhood just beyond. The main streets were light moved its own gentle pace. The afternoon had matured by now. It was around 4 p.m., and the city had taken on a warmer tone, both in light and in mood. Exploring Kampung Pelangi, I stopped Kale, I made my way to Kampung Pelangi. The famous rainbow village that had transformed from a plain hillside settlement into a vibrant attraction thanks to the creativity of its residents. As I climbed the stairs and walked through the winding paths of the painted houses, it felt like stepping into a dream. Every wall was alive with murals, patterns, messages, and bright splashes of paint. A smiling grandmother sat outside her yellow rendered pepal. Home, peeling shallots for dinner while two young boys ran down the alley, chasing each other with kites made from plastic bags and sticks. They smelled up fried onions, fresh paints, and the air hot and dry from the sun. Even though it was hot, no one seemed bothered. Life in Kampung Pelangi wasn't about rushing. It was about living slowly, happily, together. A resident, named Masfahar, WH, was voting plants along the stairway, some taking photos and web. From Jakarta, asked, no. Just visiting, he replied with a smile. I pointed to the top of the hill. Go there for sunset. Best view in town. It tempted him and continued upward, grateful not just for the directions, but for the friendliness that seemed so natural here, in Semaran. Strangers often feel like neighbors. Street sounds and the spirit of the city as he left Kampung Pelangi and walked back toward the Lauga city. The sounds of Semaran returned soft, textured, and alive, the distant call to prayer from a nearby mosque. Echoing peacefully over the rooftops. The gentle rustle of trees, waking the late afternoon wind. The click-clack of school shoes. As children walked home, the rhythmic churning of a juice blended at a street vendor's stall. I passed a young man selling his heruk, a orange juice from a pushcart. I stopped for a drink. And he quickly handed me a plastic cup filled with ice, sweet orange, and a squeeze of lime. The chill was like a gift after the heat of the climb, and I stood there quietly for a moment, sipping slowly while watching the city carry on. Semaran was loud. It didn't scream for attention, but it was full of gentle music everywhere. All the time, afternoon at Tugumuda la one sewu, Villa afternoon, I reached Tugumuda, the historical monument in front of the iconic La One Sewu building. The monument stood tall and proud, surrounded by a sequoia garden where families sat on benches and couples took selfies with the flowers in full bloom. I stood in front of La One Sewu. On the Dutch administrative building, now symbol of the city's elite past. Its arched windows, retiled roof, and long hallways carried whispers of colonial times, Japanese occupation, and indigenous struggle for independence. I joined the guided tour of the building, and the guide ran enthusiastic local university student explained each room with care and pride. We passed the airy upstairs corridors, saw stained glass windows, and even the airy basement that had once been used as a prison. The cool interior offered a break from the heat outside, and the stories offered even more a break from the ordinary. It struck me how Semaran's past wasn't something hidden, it was so